And Matt, please take it away. Show
Sure.
us how you do it.
So, as opposed to a show and tell, this is mostly going to be just a tell today, because I'm kind of transitioning from, I'm kind of like, and I've been doing this for a while, experimenting with how I use TaskWarrior. And one of the things, so I actually briefly did use TaskWarrior quite a while ago. This was, I guess, back in 2016 or 2017 when I first found out about it. One of the things I liked about it was the prospect of always at least having read access to my tasks. And when I say always, what I mean by that is having them on my phone too. So we've seen some people, at least I've seen in some of the posts lately, people talking about in the transition from Task Warrior 2 to Task Warrior 3, how their like sync process has broken for them, and some of the front end apps have broken for them. So I was thinking like, okay, and by the way, I've not been doing that lately. So yeah, it's true. While in the past I did like use Task Warrior both on my computer and at least read the stuff that I had always with me on the go on my phone, I haven't been doing that lately. So I sort of thought like, okay, how can I make sure that I still do have my tasks with me on my phone? And also, what is the simplest way to do that? So what I did was I just set up a very simple task, a very simple cron job, to make sure that. Okay, so a couple things. Let me not bury the lead. So I now have my tasks on my phone. The way I've done this, though, is very simple and straightforward, and it's not a comprehensive solution. And yet, it gets me like 80% of the way there, and I feel that that's enough for me. So, what I've done is I've set up a solution that uses a cron job. It uses sync thing, which I was already using to sync things to my phone, and it just uses this simple like literally a Python script that just does the simple task next. I think it's the default task report that you like see in Task Warrior, and that updates a text file, literally just a text file on my phone every minute with the cron job that sends my next tasks over to the note editor that I use on my phone, Obsidian. So whenever I need to see my tasks, I just quickly open Obsidian, look at that, and see like, okay, although I can't see literally everything, like I can't see all my done tasks or all my all my waiting tasks. I can see like the next things that are on the list, and I found that that's enough for me. So I don't know, like I would recommend to some people that have this problem, and it's not like this would solve all of the problems for people that are unsatisfied with the Task Warrior 2 to Task Warrior 3 thing. Um, and but like this has worked for me, and I'm really satisfied with it. So that's what I thought I'd share today. It's just the simple solution from using SyncThing, using Obsidian, and just using a simple cron job, and I've been satisfied with that. So that's where I am.
Hmm.
So you're using the Obsidian sync to get that next list. You're just writing that to your local Obsidian and it's syncing it somehow to the phone.
Are you mentioning that there's actually a product called Obsidian Sync?
No, I just see that the Obsidian editor does have a sync tab on its menu anyway.
Sure, sure. So you're correct that Obsidian
Yeah.
does have its own, like, I guess,
Uh,
proprietary way of syncing, but I don't use that. One of the
oh,
things I like about Obsidian so much is that it's just like a way of reading a bunch of text files or markdown files. So I use sync thing for other stuff on my between my phone and computer anyway. So I'm just like, okay, let me just sync it that way.
Mm.
And that's like people love sync thing,
Mm.
and I'm no exception to that. It's very easy to set up, and it just like silently gets that job done. So that's how I'm syncing them.
gotcha. Cool.
That's very cool. So you do enough tasks that your cron job running once a minute is necessary?
No, it's not necessary. That's definitely overkill. However, like, I could run it every 5 minutes or something like that. The point is that it's not the frequency that I'm doing tasks. I'm not like literally doing like, oh, I just got 73 tasks done in the last 6 hours, something like that. That's not really my use case for TaskWarrior, although I could imagine it being used like at a higher frequency like that. But I just set it to 1 minute for reliability. Like if I get something done, I mark a task done, and I'm about to head out the door, I can do so knowing that, okay, I know it just synced within the last 60 seconds. So, and it's so low overhead that I'm like, okay, this solution will be fine.
Yeah, yeah. Do you track multiple projects in your TaskWarrior setup?
Not usually. Sometimes I'm doing this, and this is actually something that I hope to be able to share. I hope to be able to share like in the next month or two. So there is, and I used to use someone's web app called Intend. And the idea behind Intend is that you think through like what it is that you're trying to get done with life in general. Like, what are my goals? What are my big overarching goals that are driving my behavior? And like every day is so basically it's a daily to-do list that asks you every day, like, hey, what are you going to do today? And then asks you to connect each of your intended actions to daily goals, like excuse me, your daily actions to your overarching goals. Say for example, like one of my goals right now is I'm going through the process to get the spelling of my name corrected, like legally. So you can see my name on the screen right now, has a Z, has an A in it. It's like kind of complicated. So I'm changing the spelling of my name right now. This is one of my overarching goals. So like Intend asks me to go and uh, connect each of my daily actions to overarching goals. And one of the ways that I could see TaskWarrior's projects being useful is to kind of replace that feature of Intend. So in other words, and this is one of the things I love about TaskWarrior, by the way. It doesn't like shoehorn you into any particular way of using it. And in fact, it kind of encourages you to customize things for yourself. And I like thinking of things in this framework.
Yeah.
However, I'm not using this right now. I'm basically just using like the project inbox to sort of like remind me like, hey, these are the tasks that I haven't like really processed yet. And every time that I add a task to my list, it'll automatically get this inbox project, and then later on I can do some more like processing and refining of like where these projects exist. But yeah, that's how I'm using the project features right now, and how I might use them in the future.
Cool.
Wow. Well, thank you, Matt, very much. Felix or Thomas, would you be interested in talking to us next time about how you use TaskWarrior?
Well, I don't use TaskWarrior, I have to confess.
Fair enough.
So it would be a very short talk from my side.
Felix, what do you think? Would you give us a little demo? Sorry, you seem to be muted.
Like in 2 weeks, I will not be in a meeting, but I could do after. Is it still muted?
No, you're good now.
That.
We can hear you.
Okay, now it's good. Okay, weird. Okay,
Yeah.
it didn't change anything. Okay, I will not be in a meeting in 2 weeks, but I could do in the one after. So like in 4 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll pencil you in for that then. Thanks.
it's actually kind of similar because I also use Obsidian on the phone and so stuff, but it's a bit other setup. But yeah, I can also share.
Cool. Just out of curiosity, how many of us use Obsidian? Okay.
Semi. I would say I mean like I have a wiki which uses also features of Obsidian, and it's Obsidian compatible, but I don't write on Obsidian on my laptop, but on the phone I use Obsidian app. So I would not say I use Obsidian, but I mean like, it's called VimWiki or WikiVim something, like, which is kind of like you can set it up that it's basically similar, but it's not exactly similar because therefore there's also the task wiki or something, the library,
Yeah.
which operates with TaskWarrior. That's my way of getting it together there.
I'm
But
actually
I can, yeah,
We're actually kind
I
of
can
the
say.
same there, Felix, in that sense. So I've stopped using Obsidian so much on my computer, and yet that is one of the reasons why I like it. So I have it both on my computer and my phone. But when I want to edit some kind of text file or like one of my journal, for example, I just open a terminal, hit a quick key, brings me into Vim, and then I can edit there. And if I want to look like through my old notes in a nice to view mode, then I'll open up Obsidian on my computer. Or if I ever want to see anything while I'm on the go, Obsidian has me there because I have done the sync thing. So I'm kind of the same in that regard.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
Thanks. All right. Well, let's turn it over to Dustin. But Felix, do you also have some updates on development for us?
Your audio's out again.
Probably,
Sounds like
I don't know what Dustin wanted to say, but it's probably.
I was going to highlight some PRs you wrote, so yeah.
And
yeah, I've gotten a bit more time to do making PRs basically at this point, which has been helpful, but not anything huge. So the big thing I worked on yesterday, I had 2 train trips this week because I went to New York City, so I got some time to work on the train. And one of those yesterday was spent trying to debug an issue caused by the new version of Rust, and the corrosion library that we use caused a linker error that suddenly started. Every PR was having a whole bunch of linking errors. Took me quite a while to track that down, but in the end, the fix was just an upgrade. So that's up for review right now. We landed a PR to make the urgency calculation not crash if a task doesn't have an entry field. And this is something that we're probably going to run into for a while, which is that TaskWarrior has a lot of assertions to say, the task must have this field, otherwise it's nonsense. And the way Task Champion is written, and kind of the way that operational transforms work is, it's difficult to guarantee that every task is going to have certain characteristics. So applications that use Task Champion should be resilient to anything they find in a task, whether that's an entry with text in the field instead of digits or anything like that. It should either ignore it if it's not valid or just use a default value or something like that. And TaskWarrior has a bunch of places. This was one of them where it crashes if it doesn't get what it expects. So at some point, we probably should do some fuzzing for that. In this case, I just fixed the one location where this occurred. And Felix also pointed out it was difficult to test. I tested it manually, but writing a test for this is difficult because TaskWarrior is also very good at not creating these situations. So it's difficult to create a task without an entry in it, which means that it's difficult to test its response to such a task. So this was in response to a larger issue where the person was having a couple different things going on. I think but this one, at least identified as a bug we could fix. We'll probably have a few more of those and maybe fix that in a more comprehensive way. Other changes were, removing some custom commands and custom scripts, so some older build stuff. I think just generally getting the build system is kind of incrementally improving, thanks to Felix for a lot of that work. And that's about it for what's happened. In review, there's also removing that big warning coming out when you tab complete, when you use the tab completion, which was silly of me, but an easy fix. And I think probably next I will be working on better error messages for sync, and if I can find some time to actually think about it, fixing the way that Task Champion and TaskWarrior interface at a lower level, which is a bigger project. So all of that is still thinking toward the 0.6 release of Task Champion and the 3.1 release of TaskWarrior. That's the project tracking right now. And there's I think about 15 bugs that aren't done yet that we would want to finish to get there. So that's where we're at.
No, that sounds excellent. And Matt, you've been working on website updates. How's that coming?
Yeah, so I just created a PR for the tools page in particular. So what Thomas asked me to do there was on the left side of the page, there are filters to refine like what kinds of tools are you looking for, and there are
Shall we show them?
Say again?
Shall we show them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I could show them. I would need just a few moments to prepare.
I have it available right now.
Yeah, please do.
Oh,
So
sweet.
let me just select it. Where is it?
And as he pulls it up, I'll kind of set the stage a little bit here. So on the tools page, and now you can see the languages and owners filters are currently done using many check boxes. And Thomas had the idea to refine this using a combo box. So that's what we've put in here. So a couple of things. So you'll see once he shows the newer version of this, which is not live yet. This is just a PR, which I have yet to take some of the suggestions for cleaning up some of the code. But you can see how it is a pair of drop downs now, and those are autocomplete drop downs. Yeah.
So from my side, this is now very compact and much nicer than the old huge list you have to go through. Okay, that's not that much from TimeWarrior side, but thinking of TaskWarrior, yeah. So there's a much longer list here. So I think TaskWarrior would really also benefit from this change.
Yeah, especially for owners.
Do you think it would be possible, especially for TaskWarrior, because now there's, I think it will split a bit in TaskWarrior 2 and TaskWarrior 3, and a lot of people, or also at least downstream apps, they're like, nah, we don't support free. I mean, like, that's a lot of manual work probably also to check, but I mean, like, if we update it, I mean, like, it would be nice, but it's, I think, also a lot of work, because now then people look at the tool doesn't state it's not compatible with free, they will set it up, and then they're like, oh, no, it doesn't work. I mean, this would be quite nice, but also a lot of work, I guess. I mean, like, every tool will need to look if it's compatible or not.
Well, I would say it depends how we set it up and how much, how we do it. So one thing we could do is, well, I was thinking about one idea quite a lot the last time, is because the scraping of the GitHub is currently done by two things. It's also written here. It's saying, okay, it's looking for repositories that have the keyword TaskWarrior or Task Server in their name, the description, or as a topic. And I somehow want to change this to topic only, because topic, this is something you put on your GitHub repository as a label explicitly, and it's so. And so you mark your repository as, okay, this is related to TaskWarrior, and so you do not have to write it in the description or in the name, and otherwise we do not have to filter out all the false positives because somebody named something with TaskWarrior, or especially there are a lot of .file repositories that we scrape and other things we have to filter out. So, well, we manage it with a blacklist, with TimeWarrior the same, but somehow I think it would be a little bit more an active decision of the contributor side. Yeah, I want this to have been listed, and I only need to put this label onto my repository, and we pick it up. So now with the TaskWarrior 2.3, we could somehow do this or use this. So maybe we say, okay, if you want to have it on the TaskWarrior 3 tools page, please register your repository with TaskWarrior 3, and everything else is on the old one, and we can only phase it out. Otherwise, it would be a little bit more work to do. So I'm not quite sure whether
I agree with this approach. I like this approach. In particular, Thomas, I'm thinking about on the search box there. So the top one of the boxes on the screen right now, we have those check boxes for exclude dormant projects and include active for archived projects. This is where I'm imagining that we would put this functionality. So basically, we would ask people to say like, hey, is your tool or extension compatible with TaskWarrior 3, and then add a checkbox field there and tags on each of the tools to say like version 3 compatible.
Yeah, so I think that the big work here would be to go through all the repositories, and well, there are quite a lot here in TaskWarrior, and more or less somehow put a note there and say, okay, you're listed on the TaskWarrior tools page. If you want to be automatically updated, please either put the label TaskWarrior on your repository or TaskWarrior 3. That would be my suggestion, if it's compatible with TaskWarrior 3. With that, we only had to change the crawler to search for these two topics, and maybe also add this checkbox where you can say, okay, exclude the TaskWarrior 2 stuff and something like that. So I would try to make it minimal. So the absolute minimum decision would more or less be, okay, we drop everything TaskWarrior 2 and only present TaskWarrior 3 because, sad but true, we do not support TaskWarrior 2 anymore. It's gone.
This might be a kind of. I would like to not suggest that we still support TaskWarrior 2, but I would also like to suggest that that is possible.
Okay.
And if someone or a group of people want to kind of go in that direction, I don't think we should tell them no. We should tell them, yes, that's great. Continue to do TaskWarrior 2, and it can kind of be its own partner ecosystem for TaskWarrior 3. And this seems like a good way to do that, to start to say that some things are and some things aren't compatible. And if a bunch of the things that you want aren't compatible with TaskWarrior 3, then maybe you're incentivized to help this growing group of people who are supporting TaskWarrior 2.
Well, and the other quick solution would be to have a second tools page to more or less set up a second crawler for TaskWarrior 3 tools, and then we can more or less also slowly migrate when they put the topic on their repository. But that would require a bit more adaptation, to the crawler script, and also on how the data is stored, to include something like a checkbox here where to say, okay, TaskWarrior 2, TaskWarrior 3, because then you have to somehow integrate it into the data, what the compatibility marker is. So, that would be the suggestions here for that. But on the other side, this is now something a little bit different to that what Matt did, but nevertheless, I think we can then proceed from here to the next step with TaskWarrior 3 tool support as well.
Yeah, exactly. It was just like, when we're actually updating, I think it at least makes sense to have there a bit of separation, because I think for someone new to the ecosystem, it's hard also to get into like what might be compatible, what needs a little bit of adaptation, because like in the end, everything which just calls TaskWarrior or even uses the TaskWarrior library, the Python one, should still work. I mean, like, at least I think I checked it out with TaskWiki. It just works because it doesn't care where the stuff saved, and that was the major change in TaskWarrior 3, but everything that has an own sync server or interoperates with something, that's a bit more the tricky side. I think there also maybe for the update, I also don't know if you saw, Mitche, but the foreground, the one Android app, like there now the owner like officially said he will not support TaskWarrior 3, so it's on hold, deprecated, or as people like so. But it's good to at least know, also for the people that there will not come the
right. As Platt was clear about that, and that app is deeply tied to the sync protocol, so I can understand it's a complete rewrite to support this. So I understand his decision. Their decision. I don't know.
Thanks for showing that. That's really excellent progress. I really like the more compact view. I think that's great.
So then I take from that well, okay, at least there are no objections against this approach to use or only scrape for topics when collecting the repositories for the tools page. At least it would be something I would like to implement when doing the TaskWarrior 3 support, that we more or less start fresh here. For the current page, like it is now, well, I could more or less, my suggestion would be well, that would be the big part. Well, reaching out to the repositories and say, okay, please put the label on there if you still want to be updated regularly. Otherwise, I would more or less freeze the current state. That's possible from the current setup, so there's not much to change here, I guess. And then more or less switch the scraping only to to the topic ones. Of course, archived and project won't be affected by that because, well, they are archived, but, well, it's no problem. And, well, the dormant ones, yeah. I think that would be the most lossless transition to the new way how to do the tools updates page. And also one with, well, not that much manual work involved, apart from having to put 846 issues in different repositories. But it's, I guess, more or less copy paste. Then maybe you can write a script for that.
Maybe one question also for TimeWarrior. I use both TaskWarrior and TimeWarrior, also over the hook. I just, when I was looking lately also in the TimeWarrior repository, so in TaskWarrior, we used to CMake, and we now changed to like an out-of-source build, like what CMake recommends, like since a few years. And when I still saw it right, the documentation, at least for TimeWarrior, still suggests also the in-source build. I could create a PR also for TimeWarrior. You also have it out of source. To have the projects maybe a little bit synced or to also follow their best practice. In the end, both works. We just realized then in TaskWarrior that a lot of stuff was linked to a lot of super specific stuff, which was only working because it was made in this like specific stuff. And then we scratched one part. I think it was a small pull request. Yeah, make out of source build. Okay, it was good. But then it was, oh, now unit tests were first failing or like not even more run. And then it was, oh, we have some custom commands, so you can't use Ninja as a build tool. And now this was like, I think we clean it up right now like a little bit to also have, I would say, like the default tool support. So if you use CLion or VS Code or something else that you can just open the repo, make a build, and it works as expected. I haven't tried this one with TimeWarrior yet, but I don't know if you would also say like, yeah, you would like to go to where I could create a PR, make also there an out-of-source build to have it there also like on the later standard, or
No objections. So I use the in-source build because that was how I found the repository when I got into the project, and it works. And setting up with CMake and all this stuff is sometimes a little bit tedious, and it's a whole different part. And yeah, you mostly are happy when you can work on the code and implement new features and don't have to mess around with the infrastructure. So if you want to take this task, I'm really happy and grateful to do that. So no objections here.
Okay.
And I think that's a big
Okay, because I will have a look into it, because I'm like, yeah. I just wanted to say also the same for me in TaskWarrior. I'm like, okay, I have a lot of pull requests I did lately, but I'm like, all are not in the code because it takes for me quite some time to get into the code and understand the whole stuff. So I was working more on like the infrastructure stuff, and yeah, now we're setting up coverage to have it somewhere nicely reported and like, I mean, like nice stuff, which I think it would attract more developers if you see like, okay, that's nice to start working. It's easy access and not. Yeah, and here you run free shell scripts, and hopefully they work by you, and so that's hard to get people started, I think.
Yeah, so go for it, I would say.
Dustin, did you have something?
That's okay. That's what I was going to say, is that I think having these things be the less surprising the build system is to someone new to a repo, the more likely they are to get involved with it. So all of these improvements have really helped in that regard.
Cool.
Maybe the problem from my side is I have to confess that TaskWarrior is the TimeWarrior, sorry, is the only C++ project in I have. Yeah, so my knowledge about how it is done elsewhere is a bit limited, or well, I have done some C++, well, I think 10 years ago. So yeah, and having only one C project does not give you a broad overview over everything else. So I'm really helpful if somebody joins in and aligns with the modern standard. At least we're at C++ 17, I think, currently. And
yeah, I agree. The only other code base I know is Chromium, and I would not wish Chromium's build system on anyone.
Can imagine. Yeah, my stuff there is mainly I did like scientific programming, or like that's what I made at university, and there's a lot of C++. And then I saw a lot of build files, and then I started to, okay, this feels really weird. I can't imagine that this is the way, like for the programs there. So then I started reading a lot of documentation, the tutorials, best practices, and then when I started setting up small projects for myself, I mean, like it's always easy if you do it from scratch. Like, of course, you do it as you expect to. And that's how I get to. So I'm also not used to like big industry projects. Maybe one can do it way better, but I always try to keep it like simple, relatively close to the standard, and nothing too fancy in it. And I think that's usually a good way to go when it's working this way. So yeah, because everything else is it's hard to maintain. What one now sees in TaskWarrior, so many stuff where no one knows what it's doing, what it was once doing. What it will do in the future, one doesn't know.
So I did want to touch on one more thing, but we can finish if someone was about to speak. Okay. Which is reviews and access to the repository. So I gave Brian access to both TaskWarrior and the Task Champion repos. But he expressed to me that he'd really rather not do reviews of C++ things, because like all of us, not very familiar with it. So I'm kind of throwing a lot of things at you, Felix, in the TaskWarrior repository. I hope you're okay with that. Yeah, you do have write access there, so you can review those. There is also a triage permission, which I downgraded Ryan to triage in the TaskWarrior repo, which lets you add tags and change bugs and things like that without being able to push to the repository. So I'm happy to give that to anyone, basically anyone that comes to these meetings twice. I think it's reliable enough and known enough, and not going to backdoor us the way XC did. But I'm happy to give write access, and I think I think anyone who can look at the PRs and catch a silly typo that someone's made or something like that is better than just clicking merge on them. So to those of you who are here, and maybe anyone who's watching this or listening to this later, that is a useful way to contribute to the project, is just to be able to review PRs, and I'm happy to give folks access for that, because I feel I've made a lot of mistakes just being sort of making a PR and thinking 2 days later, like, no one really knows what this does. I might as well just click merge, and then it's terrible. So a second pair of eyes, even if they're not terribly familiar with the language, is useful. That's all I wanted to say. And if you also would like access to the repos and you don't have it, I think several of you do, please let me know and I'll grant that.
What just surprised me, I mean, like, now that I have the access, I mean, like, one sees a bit more stuff also like the Depender bot or something from these setups. Is there also for us then, like, I would say now, like, as a developer circle, to somewhere chat and communicate as like close, where not like all the public would read through it? I mean, like, I think there's like some, you could make these automatic Depender bot updates or like some security features, which I think might be beneficial to talk first in a smaller developer circle how one wants to handle it, than like a public issue about, I don't know, these stuff. Is there somewhere a way where we can like just easily, as like 3-4 people, ping shortly with each other and chat? Is there somewhere this option? Or
I don't think there is one in the GitHub UI. I'd be happy to learn that I'm wrong there, but I think if you start a discussion or an issue, it's automatically public, even if you have sort of private access to the repo. But we could set something like that up. So are you thinking like, would a Discord be good, or email, or some kind of, we could probably also make a private repo in the GitHub org. Thomas, go ahead.
I think there's this developers channel on the TaskWarrior Discord, but there we have the problem. You need to have the developer role first, and if somebody does not have it right now, it's more or less blocked by, well, there's no admin among us currently who can assign this role here. So so we'd have to solve this problem first for that, but that could be one solution for that. But I think you already mentioned that.
Okay. Would that be a good, if we can work that issue out, is that good for you, Felix?
Yeah, we can see. I mean, like, I have not yet Discord installed, but I would make and join the TaskWarrior channel. That's not a problem. So, because one also can, worst case, have there some private chats or something, I guess.
I think, I mean, we can talk once that's done. I think one of the things we need to set up is a security contact. I think one of the parts that we haven't done is someone for the public.
I'm just maybe because I just saw. Because I was just like, when you see in the Depender bot, just like it's like this where it says like it could do an automatic update or something, and it reports like this moderate issues or something. Because I was just like, when I looked at it, and lately I was like, oh wow, we have it, and I was first like, oh yeah, should I open an issue? And I was like, I never saw this like before publicly, and I was like, I don't know if this is something one should now like publicly. There's, because I mean there's no heavy issue. It's just like updating some library somewhere, but. I think that's stuff one could shortly discuss and then just update it. So, but
Do you happen to know what exactly this dependable issue was about? Because most dependable issues I always see with the TaskWarrior and TimeWarrior repositories are updates to the GitHub actions. I think for the C++, there is little to none what dependable does.
I don't know. Is my screen getting shared? I mean, like, this what is here shares. I mean, like, it's something with the Rust one. That's also like, I know less about Rust than about C++, and also the knowledge is, I would say, mediocre. So Yeah, this was stuff where I was just like, I mean, like, do we even need it anymore, or is it somewhere updated, and one would just need to say here, oh no, that's closed or something. That was the main point where I was about to go.
Yeah, and to these
and
points,
also in a lot of actions. Sorry, in a lot of the actions, I don't know why, because it should be set up that it, like, the PandaBot should update it, but I mean, like, probably now this one will not show it, but yeah, some annotations shows like, oh yeah, they're old, or yeah, Node.js is deprecated, where I just also wanted to know, like, is this because of, like, okay, this action uses an old one or something, but yeah, this was the main thing where I thought about, like, yeah, it would be good to chat shortly about it and then know, like, is this a real security issue, or is this just some nagging about some stuff which is not an issue in the sense this was mainly the idea.
I think this was the actions. This is mostly nagging, but with the problem here, as far as I've seen it, well, if the action is not updated to the respective node version, there's not much we can do apart from using another action. Yeah, or somehow doing it manually.
Yeah.
I think the actions also just wrap some JavaScript node code, so you do not have to do this checkout or whatever thing yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I assume so.
And just to cover the Rust issues they're low severity for us, and they have to do with some test champion stuff. So I think they actually might be stale here now that we've moved that code out. But I'll take a look at those.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I mean, like, because I was also at some point like, yeah, I mean, like, Task Champion is basically now a different repository. Why is it like still shown here, like here? Because it's, yeah, it should be on the other repo.
Felix, can I ask you to file an issue just to track getting security, getting somewhere documented that developers should gather in that channel, and that's where we'll talk about security concerns.
Wait. I was saying just muted, yes, but yeah.
Thanks. That's all I have. Anything else?
From what I've noted, so it was not here last time, but I took some notes when I watched the recording. So I think there were 4 points I have noted down. I think 2 we have already addressed. So that was the Discord channels and management, and maybe I have one that is the TimeWarrior doc update. So that was also another thing that Matt was working on, and we more or less managed. Not more or less, we managed to set up now that whenever TimeWarrior will do a release, an action is triggered, which more or less sends over all the man pages to the TimeWarrior page repository where they are integrated. So automatic update for every release here. That would now be the question to you, Dustin. Do you want to have this also for the TaskWarrior? Messing it up.
Yes, very much.
For the page, because the one thing missing here is you do not show the man pages on the man pages are not shown on TaskWarrior.org yet. So in a way, we have somehow to decide, okay, where we do want to integrate them, and then it's more or less just copy pasting the actions and setting them up. And yeah, then you can also benefit from that feature Matt has implemented. Apart from that, yeah, okay, we still have this issue with the pad here. We have to set up, and also in the context of that, what kind of personal access token should it be? Should it belong to an organization and such? Which again leads back to repository management and ownership. And yeah, so think or hope next time or sometimes in between we can talk to Thomas Babet, because as far as I know, he and Paul Beckingham are the only two owners of the Gothenburg Bit Factory. And maybe that's also something where we maybe need some more persons in there to have more contacts and yeah, a little bit spreading the knowledge and responsibilities. Right. And maybe another point that I've noted down is there was a question from your side, Dustin, about the relationship between TimeWarrior and TaskWarrior. So you said something that you do not know how they are more or less related or work together. Well, now I'm here, so you want to re-ask the question, and I hope we can answer it. So in a way that officially between the programs, they work with this hook. I think that's more or less clear. On the internal side, well, TimeWarrior is more or less an offspring of TaskWarrior. That was some kind, as far as I've heard, an internal feature, and then it got outsourced, if you want to say like that. And they are somehow linked with this lib shared. And that also brings me back to one question. Now with the change to TaskWarrior 3 and integrating Task Champion into it, how much is TaskWarrior still using or relying on libshared? And somehow also the question how to well, proceed with libshared. I had some discussion also on TimeWarrior side, whether we should more or less just integrate libshared into TimeWarrior and cut the cord to, or no longer use it as a common repository. It's integrated as a Git submodule in here with all pros and cons. And yeah, it's mostly there's no big problem with that, but sometimes there are some issues when you change stuff in here. And also, yeah, I think the motivation to have it like this stems from the very early times when there were all the other projects still alive, like CLog and Anomaly, and because I think all those other C++ projects, they also were using this libshared, so this was more or less the common C++ library of the Gothenburg Bit Factory. I hope I'm not. So that's why archaeology found out. Guesswork as well. So if Willem Schurman finds them talking, yeah, stupid stuff again, then he can roast me again. So the question is how to proceed here. Does TaskWarrior still need libshared? Would it be, well, better to more or less go separate ways and just keep it more or less in sync? I think one thing we should keep in sync is how the CLI works in a way, because I've often seen people that say, I'm using both, and I want to have the same CLI experience on both programs. So in a way, we should keep that also for the future development, that more or less that we do not introduce stuff on one side and that is not present on the other, or at least from behavioral side, of course. But there are also, well, the question is this necessary then to have this libshared for that? Because regarding dates and other stuff, there's some similarities, but also some big differences, because TaskWarrior always looks into the future, TimeWarrior always looks into the past. So when it comes to dates and to find out what does do something on Monday or command with Monday mean when Monday is in the past or in the future, or where is it? And then you always have to have this toggles implement and also in the code, and yeah, it also makes it a bit hard when you want to implement a feature. So really thinking about new ways about how to parse the CLI to solve some issues on TimeWarrior side. And when you always have to think about, okay, how does this or how would this affect TaskWarrior just by implementing it? So makes it a little bit hard.
So TaskWarrior does still use libshare. That is essentially unchanged since TaskWarrior 2. And in fact, there's an open bug around UTF parsing. It has a dependency on libshared. There's an open issue in libshared for that right now. I think splitting, sort of making just copying it into each of these projects would have the downside that it's more C++ code. Is kind of the responsibility, the maintainership of the TaskWarrior developers, and we're all pretty unfamiliar with C++ and maintaining that code. So, does give a chance for individual bug solving, I suppose. I could solve this UTF-8 bug maybe by reading very carefully the UTF-8 parsing code in libshare. But the advantage to having it shared is, of course, we share the benefits of that. So if someone who's more familiar with that parsing code can fix this bug in libshared, TimeWarrior and TaskWarrior both benefit. So I think I would lean toward keeping it using the Git submodule going forward. But if it's really holding back TimeWarrior development to have to kind of consider the TaskWarrior implications of changes, then we could consider splitting it.
Maybe one thing, we really want to keep it as a shared module, so then, as you said, somebody with knowledge about this all parsing stuff can just solve it on the libshared side. I think we need to improve or also invest a bit time then also from TaskWarrior side in the end-to-end testing then. So in the libshared repo, I have set up some, or try to set up some actions that more or less checks out the respective state. So you have I'm mixing it up. I think I haven't done it for libshared or it's been a long time. But I think if we do it, we keep it as a shared module. It would be helpful maybe for the one doing it, and especially if I'm involved in that, because I do not use TaskWarrior and have not much idea how things should work or are working currently. So for the testing side, to have some end-to-end testing in place that is also updated and kept in sync. So whenever you change something in the libshared module, you're more or less sure, okay, everything is fine from testing side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Otherwise,
it looks like the actions you have here would do well with that. They run the TaskWarrior test suite, right?
I think it's that they build it with both. So I think they build it again. The current libshared. So I have to look it up. I know I did some test implementation. I think I implemented some action that always builds libshared against the current dev and stable version of TaskWarrior and TimeWarrior just to make sure, okay, does it break something somewhere? So when you say, okay, make an update to libshared, would this work with the current stable version? Would it work with the current development version? I think this is some kind of minimal testing that should be done. And of course, one should also keep an eye on that. So when you use it, that you, that what more this be the responsibility I would like to hand over to TaskWarrior people. In that case, I think it means you or maybe Felix to keep an eye on these tests. So I don't really have to, in a way, bother with them. I can just implement and proceed with that. And of course, I should take a look at it if they turn red. But I also get some support on that side. Why? So I'm not totally alone with that.
Yeah, so I guess there's more room for collaboration here, both directions. We need some work on the parser done to support that Unicode bug, and certainly being able to help with the tests would be helpful as well. I'll make a bug for the second one.
Yeah, I think an issue for the second one is actually good, because when I look over the task Docker file from libshared, it will not run with the current TaskWarrior, because it's now the out of source build, and it requires the old run all script, which we changed to the C test. So I would be surprised if it works. Let's put it like that. It might work, but it should not work. Let's put it like that. So if we open an issue in libshared, and maybe tag me, I mean, like, basically it's the same test file than what we have in TaskWarrior, just that it pulls TaskWarrior from its own code, as far as I saw it now on the first idea.
In a way, it checks out the repository, but it does. I think it does not do the submodule checkout, and then it more copies, or it should copy the current.
Its own stuff. Yeah.
So you have this feature. Okay.
Yeah.
Version A of TaskWarrior with current libshared version. What's the result? Yeah, but
exactly.
Big please would be
Warrior. Yeah. Sorry, my audio is delayed always.
Okay, I've noticed that. So sorry for interrupting. But so my big please would that not somebody opens an issue there. I think there always well, it's only 14 issues on the shared, but there are enough issues. It would be really more helpful if somebody's somehow taking care of that. Yeah, and not the parsing side, but especially with the actions, and maybe if you could also take care of the out of source build, setting it up right on the shared, that I would be really grateful for that.
Yes, yeah, the there I know Mitchell created one. I will have a look. So this should not be a problem. I think that's yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I guess libshared is a bit not really abandoned, but neglected.
Neglected.
Maybe something we should think about, not today, because I see we're out of time, is how to attract more C++ developers to this project. I think nobody's really willing to admit that they know C++.
Well, if it helps,
I think for generally attracting people, it could also be these. I don't know. Isn't there? Sorry, isn't there not also like this Hacktoberfest or these stuff from GitHub where you could do? Because I mean, like, generally TaskWarrior is quite, I would say, famous or big, or it was at least if you look Google like 3-4 years ago. There's a lot of stuff, and then it's break, and now stuff happening again. But I think one could maybe also get there.
Well, if it helps, what does it mean to be a C++ developer? Because in my day job, I develop in Java, and I have some Python projects going on, and well, TimeWarrior is my only C++ project. Does that qualify me as a C++ developer, or am I some kind of, well, chimera? So I think you just need to know some object-oriented coding, and yeah, maybe do not shy away from some C++ style. I think that's good enough.
Right.
Well, this has gone a little longer than we had initially planned, but I think it's been a terrific conversation. Anything else that we should bring up before we bring the agenda to a close? Okay. In that case, feel free to stick around and hang out, chat if you like, but this will be the official close of the meeting.
Yeah, then thanks again to you, Wesley, for hosting it.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, I appreciate this.
Yes, thanks a lot.
I think that the 2-week cycle is working.
See you guys. I will not be here next week.
Yeah, I think the 2-week cycle is working for us and is helping us get conversation starting to gel, which I really like.
Good seeing you all today. Take care.
You too.
You guys.
See you in 2 weeks. It's Felix, 4 weeks.
Bye.
See you guys.
Yeah, 4 weeks. Bye bye.
Bye.